Welcome to the Planning Commission, Monday, November 29th, 7 p.m. We're going to open with a prayer by our Alderman Jack Young and the Pledge of Allegiance.
Would you pray with me, please? Heavenly Father, we thank you for this day, for the beautiful weather you've given us, God. I thank you for the opportunity we have to serve our city, Lord, to hear the information coming from our citizens and to grant us wisdom, God, as we do the job that we have been assigned to do. Lord, I thank you for the many blessings you give us. I pray for those that are sick in our community. I pray that you'll continue to watch over and protect them. And I pray all these things in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, first up is approval of the minutes. Has everyone had a chance to look at those? If so, I'll entertain a motion.
Second.
A person is second. If you'll please call the roll, Melissa.
Casper Briggs.
Yes.
Jay Kaufman.
Yes.
John Conroy.
Yes.
David Hunt. Paul Kaiser.
Yes.
Jim Lamb.
Yes.
Curtis Sigler.
Yes.
Jack Young.
Pass.
Mandy Young.
Yes.
Okay, minutes are approved. First up tonight is Union Depot, mixed-use development. Kim, if you'll introduce that for us, please.
Good evening. The applicant, Keith Grant, with Grant & Company, is here tonight seeking a favorable recommendation to the Board of Mayor and Aldermen for a special use permit to develop a residential mixed-use development for property located at 6896 Highway 70, which was the former Baptist Children's Home property. The property is approximately 74 acres in size, and it is zoned both residential and office, that is RS10, and office, OR1. The residential mixed use requires a special use permit, that is a site-specific special use intended to allow residential uses with mixed uses, including commercial and office development in buildings of 2 or more stories. The residential mixed use shall be applied for as a special use permit that will be reviewed by the Planning Commission, requiring the final action by the Board of Mayor and Aldermen. According to Article 6, Section 29 of the Bartlett Zoning Ordinance, a special use permit is required to move forward with submitting development plans for the residential mixed use development. The plan that was sent out to the public with the public notice is a conceptual plan that shows the layout of where the different uses will be or could be located within the property. The location of uses, street connections, number of uses could be modified down the road, but the outline plan of conditions will pretty much remain the same. Should this special use permit be approved, then the applicant would return to the Planning Commission with a master plan showing development phasing along with infrastructure, street connections, and possible other modifications that may be slightly different from the conceptual plan. Following the master plan approval, the applicant would then need to submit construction plans, final subdivision plans, and site plans to this commission as well for approval. The applicant then would also submit building elevation plans for all but the single-family homes, landscaping, lighting, and building materials, as well as signage to the Design Review Commission. The applicant will assign, according to the applicant, they will assign both a homeowners association and a property ownership association for the commercial properties within this development. Surrounding uses to this property currently include residential, a church, car wash, restaurant, multi-tenant retail, a bank, a gas station with a convenience store. Surrounding zoning currently is residential single family, highway commercial, a planned unit commercial, and a planned unit commercial development to the east and west of this property. Staff has reviewed this application and recommend a favorable recommendation to the Board of Mayor and Aldermen, along with the conditions that are listed in your staff report. Just note that we have contacted the schools regarding the impact of this development to the schools. We have recommended a traffic study to determine the viability of the street connections that are shown in the concept plan, as well as a possible traffic signal. Police and fire are looking at the impact to their departments, as well as the Public Works Department. With that being said, if there's any questions for me.
Thank you, Kim. Appreciate that. At this time, before we open the public hearing, any questions from the commissioners for Kim?
Kim, real quick, one question. Just want to clarify that this is an application for the special use permit only. This is not site plan approval. We're not into engineering documents. Nothing final here. This is only a special use permit. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Any others?
Well, the other comment is that, and I don't know if this, now it is. This is only for a recommendation to the Board of Mayor and Aldermen. This is not approving a special use permit at this point. This body does not have that authority. It's for giving a recommendation to the Board of Mayor and Aldermen.
Correct. Yes.
Thank you. Any other questions from the commissioners before we move to the public hearing? Seeing none, thank you, Kim. I'm going to move on to the public hearing. A couple things we need to know first about the public hearing. Each side will get for and against. We get 20 minutes to speak. There'll be 3 minutes per person after the time of people present have spoken for that side. There'll also be a time to read into the record any letters we received. It's up to the 20-minute limit. So moving on, we'll do anybody against the plan come forward, please. You can state your name and address for the record, and then you have up to 3 minutes to speak.
Thank you. I'm grateful that I have the opportunity to present my thoughts and my opinions on the proposal. My name is James Sturgill.
Sir, I hope to interrupt you. Can you state your name and address for the record, please?
Yes, James Sturgill, 3100 Briarwood Lane.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Apologize for that. I'm currently serving as the HOA Briarwood homeowners president. So I not only represent my views, but reviews of a majority of the neighborhood. So we did a survey with our neighborhood, and 30% of the residents responded. So I'm representing the majority of the residents. And on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being strongly against, the majority was overwhelmingly against the proposal with a score of 8.4. I captured the comments in the responses to our survey. They were concerned about the connecting streets, the increased traffic. The housing density was a big one, the negative impact on property values, concern about rentals and apartments, safety, and destruction of the woods behind the neighborhood. As we continue to deal with the pandemic, our homes and neighborhood have become an increasingly source of comfort and security, both physically and emotionally. One cannot drive down our streets without appreciating the beauty of the many trees adjacent to the neighborhood that would be lost as a result of the development. We realize that development is good for the economy and good for the city of Bartlett, but when it adversely affects the quality of life and nullifies the primary reasons a majority of the residents choose to live in Briarwood, it must be done carefully and with sufficient pause for reflection of foreseen and unforeseen consequences. It took us 6 months to find our home. The day we drove into the neighborhood, we saw the beautiful wooded backyard of our Briarwood home, and we knew that Bartlett was a place for us to raise our family. We urged the Planning Commission to carefully and cautiously consider the long-term effects of this proposal. We realize that the density is going to increase the number of individuals that will be in the proposed design. It's increasing the density from 3.0 Union Depot will have 646 units in 66 acres for a DUA of 9.7. That's an increase of more than 200%, and we'll be adding 1,200 cars to a relatively small part of Bartlett. Again, just want to express my opinion that we're strongly against without some significant changes. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. If you'll please state your name and address for the record, please.
My name is Catherine Wright. I live at 31 Briarley Lane. We are very disappointed that y'all would even consider this development size for this small space. There are too many homes, apartments, and lofts equal to 600 plus residents planned, which may see up to 1,200 vehicles just going in and out from the development, not including traffic from the planned businesses. We are opposed to the stubs being cut through from Union Depot to Briarwood Subdivision. These residential streets were not designed to handle the proposed volume of traffic with this development that it would create. Briarwood Subdivision does have a wide entrance at Kirby Whitten, but quickly narrows down, and when our vehicles in our neighborhood are parked on both sides of the street, only one car can pass through, which is not feasible for any volume traffic flow. This cut-through would increase additional traffic by creating a shortcut to and from the businesses on Highway 70, as opposed to going through several traffic lights going through the main street routes. Briarwood Subdivision is a quiet neighborhood. I have lived there for 25 years. It is a wonderful place. It has a one-street entrance and exit, which helps reduce crime. Building houses and lot sizes more comparable to the surrounding Bartlett neighborhoods would be more like Bartlett, instead of cramming as many residents as possible into this space. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. If you please state your name and address for the record, please.
I'm Tracy Birch. I reside at 3172 Hill Lake Drive in Bartlett. I just wanted to talk about, I would just like for y'all to deny this special use program. It's actually a tax increment financing program. From my research, it will increase property taxes, and Bartlett just experienced a substantial rise in property taxes. These increased taxes can be frozen, from my research, for taxpayers for up to 30 years. Not only property taxes will rise, but other taxes will potentially rise in order to retire the debt by a TIF. TIFs are usually used for blighted and deteriorated areas. Bartlett is none of those. Under the TIF concept, the increased tax or increment is set aside in a special account to be used to pay debt service and other expenses in improving property. TIF revenues are paying for the project costs. In other words, the taxpayers will end up paying for a project that many of us do not want. I wonder, have you reviewed the special use permits in Memphis and Shelby County Unified Development Code? This project will violate these codes by causing a great strain on an already congested area along Summer Avenue, Highway 70, I would urge you to look at the traffic accidents that have occurred along this section of Highway 70. The traffic on Kirby-Whitten has increased tremendously over the last several years, and the ingresses into Briarwood Subdivision will only increase traffic issues on Kirby-Whitten due to drivers using the area as a shortcut to Summer Avenue. Also, the projection of nearly 1,000 additional residents with the 74 acres shows an excessive concentration of population, which will lead to concerns of safety issues when need of fire, police, and ambulance services. Our first responders are already overburdened, so I would urge you to do a comprehensive study on the effects this new development would have on our first responder services. In addition, Bartlett's provisions are fairly adequate for its existing citizens. However, with the influx of individuals who have moved here in recent years, especially after Bartlett schools became an independent entity in 2013, the school systems are now considered by many to be overcrowded. Adding an additional community within this community will only cause massive overcrowding issues at these schools. Lastly, this code would be violated with water and sanitation services. With our water services already experiencing problems with water pressure throughout the community, and adding additional demand on the system will result in funding for renovations, and sanitation services will be affected negatively also. There have been reports in other cities in which TIF money has been used inappropriately. Abuses of these funds by elected officials have become common and are referred to as slush funds. Research Chicago. What about crime and dilapidation of buildings? Of course, anything new is interesting in the short term, but have these areas been studied long term in regard to increased crime and eventual decaying of this projected community? In closing, for those of you who know the classic It's a Wonderful Life, why would any of us want to turn Bedford Falls into Pottersville? Thank you.
Thank you. Can you state your name and address for the record, please?
My name is Dell King. I live at 3208 Woodsman Lane here in Bartlett, and I'm speaking opposed to this proposal. A few moments ago, we all stood here and pledged allegiance to a flag, and the concluding statement was, "with liberty and justice for all." This proposal does not provide liberty or justice for the residents of Briarwood or Kirby Lakes, because it negates the very reasons that we moved into these subdivisions, the very reasons why we came to Bartlett: for safety, for intimate neighborhoods where we know our neighbors, where our children play on the out front on the sidewalks by the street, where our neighbors walk. We counted the other day the number of walkers just in front of my home, which was over 40. And that's not the number of children who are riding their bicycles and using their scooters and their skates. Our major concern is this mixed-use plan, which really negates the whole character of Bartlett by opening up a residential thoroughfare to a commercial usage. And we know that because of the density and the complexity of our neighborhood traffic patterns, this is going to become a cut-through from Summer Avenue all the way to Kirby-Whitten. There's going to be more than just the 1,000+ cars from these residential homes. It will be also all the traffic from the commercial area, plus everybody who's looking for a way to get around the intersections off of Stage Road at Summer or Kirby-Whitten. They will cut through. They will wind up in our small neighborhoods. Our children will not be able to play. That's not justice for them. Our elders who walk morning and night in a safe neighborhood will not find justice by cars speeding back and forth and across. It will create an unsafe and unwelcome character in our neighborhood. And just let me conclude that most of us moved to Bartlett and moved to Kirby Lakes and to Briarwood because of this safe and intimate neighborhood where we feel secure, where we know that we can count on our police department to show up, where the fire department comes whenever we need them, where the sanitation people come down the street regularly and pick up all the trash. We live in a good place, and we want to continue to live in a good place. And that's why I ask you to please not consider favorably this proposal. It will destroy the life that we have here in Bartlett. And friends, that does not give liberty or justice to the current residents of this neighborhood. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment. If you'll please step forward, place your name and address for the record, please. If you come forward, please state your name and address for the record, please.
My name is Jim Beach, past president of Kirby Lakes Neighborhood Association. I am concerned about many of the same things that the others have spoken about.
I'm sorry, sir. Could we get your address, also the name and address, please? Could we get your name and address, please, for the record?
Jim Beach, 3140 Hill Lake Drive.
Thank you, sir.
I am past president of the Neighborhood Association. We are concerned about high-density projects that stretch resources and include schools and infrastructure issues that we don't think are being addressed currently, and that roads accessible through our neighborhood shouldn't run behind our homes. There should be more than a 30-foot buffer between our property lines and other housing, and that if there should be some possible consideration for front entry on homes that may be placed over there. We think that there should be speed limits on these streets that are being changed, modified, particularly in what you're calling the alleys. And we also, it appears that in the very back of these townhomes or single-family homes, that there will be a swimming pool or a recreation area that needs to be looked at to keep the noise, again, additional noise from coming through there, and should be controlled. Also, we would like to see something other than apartments up in the front of that subdivision, because Bartlett is not a place for, and Summer Avenue we do not feel is a proper place for these apartments. And we appreciate your consideration. That's all I've got.
Thank you for your comments. Please place your name and address for the record, please.
My name is Kathy Garrett, 7027 8th Road. I just wanted to voice my concern regarding the plans, what's going to be built on the Baptist Children's Home. I've lived in Bartlett for over 40 years, attended Bartlett High School, so my love for this city is big. Progress is good, and I'm not opposing progress, but I do not feel this is the way to develop it. Some of my reasons are traffic concerns. Have you ever been on Highway 70 in the early morning rush hour traffic? What a mess this is going to be for people trying to get out on Highway 70. Building a road through a subdivision would also be a serious concern. Would you like to live in a subdivision that has all this traffic? Think about all those families and those children. Loss of property values, that's another concern. Building this with flats that rent will bring down home values. Who would want to buy a proposed $400,000 home with flats and townhouses around them? Crime. We believe that the increase in rental will increase crime. Look at the statistics. Do we have enough police to patrol that area? Schools. Since Bartlett schools are so excellent, people are going to flock here. I believe that we will have an issue with crowding in our schools, or possibly having to add or build more schools to accommodate this. Bartlett's High School is already booming at the scene. The retail and the restaurants. Instead of building more retail and restaurants, could we not clean up and get rid of some of those vacant buildings that are unoccupied? Can Bartlett afford upscale retail? Think about the average income of Bartlett citizens. The tree ordinance. Is there not a tree ordinance to protect those beautiful trees? Sister cities. Don't compare this projected project to the one in Lakeland. Their project was in an area of no subdivisions, in many ways to exit this development. I asked Mr. Grant at the meeting on November 22nd if he would consider just building homes and keeping the beautiful trees. His answer was no. I truly believe this plan has not been thought out well enough, and you will agree to hold up for making a final vote on this. Mr. Grant stated that after the property is changed to a mixed-use development, that the engineers would then work on the traffic concerns. Should you not look at all these concerns before a vote is taken? I realize that this will bring money to our community, but is this truly the way to handle it?
Gentlewoman's time has expired.
Please think about this before your vote.
Thank you for your comments. Can you please state your name and address for the record, please? Place your name and address for the record, please.
Troy Ann Palopoulos, 3208 Woodsman Lane in Briarwood. I'm concerned about water runoff. When mature trees are cut down and replaced by new trees, they won't soak nearly as much water. We already have runoff problems in our neighborhood where some houses and yards are flooded. With the amount of asphalt and concrete and roof surface that is proposed for this mixed-use area, it is going to really cut down the amount of water that's able to be absorbed by the open property that's there now. A runoff pond is going to be deleted or filled in. So, and if right now, as I look at the land across the street from me, it is a good 10 to 12 feet higher than my property. So I wonder about the water runoff. Another issue I'm concerned about that hasn't been really well stated is the fact that the Briarwood entrance is only going to be about 250 feet away from the entrance to the single-family homes. And there's already difficulty turning in and out of the both the Kirby Lakes and the Briarwood Subdivision, but to add an entrance only 250 feet away is going to cause traffic to turn down one or the other, particularly if those spur roads are cut through. And if they do have to be cut through, I would strongly encourage a gate to be put across them, or if they're cut through for safety, with a Knox box, which fire and police use, that has a key in it, that fire and police could be able to go through that gate, but that regular commercial and residential traffic couldn't just move through from one subdivision to another unfettered. And otherwise, as has been mentioned, it'll become a cut through going from Kirby Whitten all the way through to Summer. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. I think the time is about expired.
We have time for one more speaker.
Okay.
Mr. Kaiser.
Yes, sir.
John Furloney Sr.,
yes, sir.
3165 Brierley Lane.
Yes, sir.
As y'all have heard, and I'm pretty much assuming, everybody in those seats tonight behind me are against this. Now, I'm not against progress, but I live in a Shangri-La. It's great. Briarwood Subdivision is fantastic for one reason. Beside the nice neighbors, we have one entrance and one exit. At the meeting we held, whatever day it was last week, Mr. Grant, and tell me if I'm wrong, but I asked Mr. Grant one question and it still puzzles me. I asked him, why has he got to cut through with other streets when that one access does very well for all of us? And he said it was because y'all had to have it that way. For emergencies, I believe. Wasn't that right, Mr. Grant? Okay. We've done great with emergencies. I've had 2 ambulances on my street, one my next door neighbor and the other across the street.
Well, I'm going to interrupt you just a moment. Please keep your comments directed to the commission, please, not the audience.
Well, I just wanted to make sure I was right, Mr. Kaiser. I don't want to tell you a lie.
The comments are just your comments, sir.
All right, my comments are, this is ridiculous. It's going to lower property values, and you're going to have more traffic in our neighborhood. Now, who among you wants to live in a neighborhood with more traffic? Y'all saw the movie Shangri-La. And if you'll remember, there was one entrance and one exit into Shangri-La, and if you didn't know where that rock was, you couldn't get in. Thank you for your time.
Thank you for your comments. Well, that's going to close the against portion of the meeting. Now we're going to enter the for portion of the public hearing. Anybody want to speak for the commission, on the public hearing for the development? Anybody for? Anybody? Seeing none, Melissa, can you read some letters we had in the record?
We had one letter speaking favorably for this development from a Mr. Charles Goforth at 4238 Broadway Road. It reads, Director Taylor, I have reviewed the plans for the proposed mixed-use development of the former Tennessee Baptist Children's Home property. As a Bartlett resident, member of the Bartlett Industrial Development Board, and the former Director of Planning and Development for the City of Bartlett from 1984 to 1998, I have followed the proposed development of this valuable property in the center of Bartlett. I am in support of the proposed development as recommended by the staff of the Planning and Engineering Departments. I would like to personally see more commercial and a hotel added to the property at the corner of Highway 70 and Stage Road. We need a hotel in the heart of Bartlett, and this would be an outstanding location. The staff has adequately addressed the traffic issues by requiring traffic studies to determine if traffic signals will be warranted for this large development. The engineering staff has adequately provided conditions to ensure the proper development of utilities for the site. The existing residential properties have adequately buffered by providing new single-family residential lots adjacent to the existing homes. In summary, I am in support of this project with the staff recommendations. Charles Goforth.
Thank you. Any others? Any others, Melissa?
No.
Okay. That ends this is going to close out the public hearing. Any discussion among the commissioners or any questions for the applicant?
One quick question.
You know, a lot of the issues that were addressed there, all very positive concerns. I share those same concerns with you. A couple of them were addressed several times, but I just wanted to ask a couple members of staff, and this particular question to the Director of Engineering, Rick McClanahan. Can we assure the citizens that the proper studies will be performed that will address the water pressure issues that were brought up, drainage runoff that was brought up, traffic studies, things that are under your realm there? Can we assure them that those studies will be performed?
Sure, I'll be happy to address those. One of the issues, the water issue, the pressure issues that were there, we've run a series of modeling of the particular area, and we're actually looking at moving the Briarwood development with some additional work, as well as extensions of a 16-inch main from a water tower on Summer Avenue down through the development over to Kirby Whitten. By doing that, having them do that as part of the development, and some other work that would be done along Kirby Whitten, we could move them to a higher pressure plane, so they would get about 20 extra pounds of pressure associated with moving them from that one to the other. It's possible we could do that also with Kirby Lakes, but that's a little bit beyond where we are right now with the modeling. But certainly the Briarwood, we could increase the pressures by having the developer extend the big 16-inch main from the tank down through the site. It provides fire protection for his development. It also would provide additional pressures for the Briarwood specific development. So that's in the works, and if the project would be approved, that would be able to be done. Concerning the stormwater drainage, we have a basic master plan. It does not have the detention ponds specifically laid out at every location. It's got a few of the really big ones. All that would be done when the plan sets come in. Aaron in my office in the subdivision would do the reviews. We would require all of the studies, evaluations to be made associated with the stormwater runoff that would be occurring associated with that development. So the stormwater side, the two water sides would be addressed associated with that. We've also requested a traffic study.
to be looked at for not only signals, where signals potentially would have to be located or should be located because of the number of cars going in and out of the development, but also to evaluate the stub connections to be sure that they would or would not be necessary. Once again, this is a concept plan for that particular area, and we're not saying it has to be there or it doesn't have to be there, but we want to see what the actual traffic volumes would be moving cars. Are cars going to go from that development through Briarwood, or once the connections are made, will people want to utilize the signals and come out of Briarwood and go the opposite direction? All that would need to be looked at, and we would evaluate that as part of the development and bring that forward when the plan sets basically come in.
Good, thank you. If I could follow up on that, Mr. Chairman, with
Sure,
a question for Ms. Taylor with planning. Basically the same question, the issues addressed that I heard, police, fire, first responders, and the schools. Can we assure the residents here that those proper studies will be performed?
Yes. As a matter of fact, I did hear from the school superintendent today, and I questioned with the development proposing 649 units, what would be the potential impact to the schools? And the answer was that they would decrease the transitional redistricting that's currently being done. So there wouldn't be necessarily an impact on what's occurring right now, but there would be less moving about from school district to school district within the city of Bartlett system.
So basically the students that live in Bartlett would go to Bartlett, and the number that are outside the city of Bartlett would decrease to compensate for that, is that?
Right, and it may also cut back on some students being transferred to different school districts within the city, different schools within the city.
Okay, and then has anything been addressed with the police, fire, first responders?
I know that Steve Soames, I talked to him, he was working on it. Fire, they would possibly need to increase the number of inspectors. I'm not exactly sure as to the number of that.
Okay, but so we just don't have an answer, but that study is underway.
We don't have an answer for what exactly, how many employees would need to be increased per division yet.
Okay, so it sounds like in whole these issues are being addressed by the city officials here that need to be concerned with it. Is that right? Excellent. Thank you.
Thank you, Jay. Would the applicant like to speak? It's strictly up to you. Would you like to make any comments?
It's Keith Grant, 177 Crescent Drive in Collierville, Tennessee. And I just wanted to thank you all for hearing this tonight. We're just here for any questions that y'all may have. We'd be happy to answer those.
Sure. Any other questions to the commission?
Yeah, I do. Mr. Grant, one of the questions I'd like to ask you, would you have a problem in closing the stub streets if, in fact, that was deemed appropriate by the police and fire department?
I do not have a problem with that.
Okay. I didn't think you would. There's a reason, and I don't know what it was when Briarwood was developed, that those stub streets were put there. I imagine the reason you built them into your plan was because they were sitting there existing.
We're always asked to tie into existing stub streets when
Right.
we lay out our design. So we're generally expected to do that, and city or towns tell us not to, then we take them out.
Okay. So my point is that once this gets down the road, if in fact it does, then all of that will be evaluated. It's nothing set in gold right now. The purpose of this is to recommend a special use permit to the Board of Mayor and Aldermen. And then the site plan gets reviewed and the evaluation by engineering and all the other various departments in the city. So approval or disapproval, disapproval tonight pretty much would kill it, but approval tonight does not mean this development is going to take place. It means we're going to do the studies that are necessary to validate whether or not we should do it, and I think everyone needs to understand that. Thank you.
Thank you, Jack. Any other questions for the commissioners, for the applicant, or the Director Kim? Any other questions?
One other question. Mr. Grant.
Yes.
Just to address some of the concerns that our audience has, or some of the residents there. Most of those have been addressed already, but one that I didn't hear any discussion on is specifically about the lot size. Is there any compromise on your part, or idea, or thought that you may compromise on the lot size to match the comparable size of the lot nearby?
Well, we actually have been using this product in another community out in Arlington, just east of here. It's been extremely popular. Our surrounding values of the surrounding communities, but also within the neighborhood, have been going up tremendously. There's a lot of desire today for people to downsize, and they don't have that opportunity. These are patio homes. They all have porches on the front of the homes. The interesting thing is, I've built a lot of homes in Bartlett. I've built a lot of homes across the whole metro market, and Memphis traditionally hasn't seen, of the last 30 years, front porches that people actually use. And if you build them in a way that people will utilize those porches, you'll find neighbors sitting on them in the afternoon, socializing with one another and getting to know one another a lot better. So they don't want the maintenance, is what we're hearing, and so we've got them in a small, manageable size where it's a 50-foot wide lot at the building. At the front of the lot, but it's very similar to a community that we're building out in Arlington currently, where it's been very successful. Where we're seeing homes selling in the price of, in the range of $190 a square foot. So we expect something very similar to that in this area.
Thank you. Any other questions? We'll have order in the gallery, please. Any other questions?
Yes, Mr. Grant. Did you say the front property width was 50?
That's correct, yes.
For most of the lots?
Mm-hmm.
I have a question. Is that lot size allowed in this zoning that it's going to be the RSN?
With the special use permit, it is allowable if the special use permit is approved, just like a planned development. In a planned development, which the residential zone property could be a planned development by itself, the sizes, the setbacks, and that sort of thing, and even the lot coverage can be amended from the underlying zoning. So.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions, commissioners? Seeing none, do I hear a motion?
Motion to approve the application for special use permit.
Got a first?
Second.
A first and a second. Melissa, please call the roll, please.
Mr. Briggs?
Yes.
Mr. Kaufman?
Yes.
Mr. Conroy?
Yes.
Mr. Kaiser?
Yes.
Mr. Lamb?
Yes.
Mr. Sigler? Alderman Young?
Yes.
Miss Young?
Yes.
All right, motion's carried.
Thank you. Motion's carried. It's for a favorable approval to the Board of Mayor and Alderman. Next, we'll go to the Board of Mayor, Board and Alderman meeting, and they'll discuss that further. We thank you for your coming, and the meeting's adjourned.